I think that we are live now. Hello, everyone. This is Naimul Islam Rifat, your host today, and we have an amazing guest today with us named Rashedul Islam, who recently got into MIT from Bangladesh. Ra- Um, I'd like to request Rashedul Islam to introduce himself to all of us. Please give your introduction.
Hi everyone. My name is Rashedul Islam, and I have been granted admission into MIT for fall of 2022. And I mean, you know, I'm like a regular NCTB background student. I studied in ideal school from class 1 through 10, and then like 11, 12, I was in Notre Dame College. And after that, I just participated in a lot of competitions during that time, and finally just applied for the US application process, went through the whole stuff, and then finally somehow got into MIT. uh, yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
Oh, you're from Notre Dame, and I'm also from Notre Dame College. However, um, we'd like to know more about yourself. Please tell us about your background as well as academic background.
Well, when it comes to my personal background, I am from a very middle class family. Like my father's like a service holder in a private company, that kind of stuff. Like, typical Bangladeshi family as it is. For my academic background, I think it pretty much summarized it before. No, you know, NCTB background is Ideal School and College in Bangla version, Notre Dame College in Bangla version, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Uh, it's really amazing to get into MIT because everyone cannot get into MIT, and you are really our inspiration nowadays. However, our honorable spectators have been sending us a lot of comments in our pages and even in my inbox. However, I'd like to ask you some questions. um,
Sure.
how did you prepare yourself for the US universities, particularly for the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, while being a student of NCTV background?
Okay, so uh, I'm not gonna don't take this as something you should do. This is just something I did. Okay, this is just a disclaimer. Okay, this isn't something that everyone should do. This is just something I happen to do. Okay, so I learned about I first everything really started for me when I first went to the physics Olympiads. Right, the first time I went to the Bangladesh Physics Olympiad, I managed to went to International Physics Olympiad 2018, and that was like around the time when I learned that most people, a lot of people from Bangladesh, actually apply to study at the United States because they have some have very good, generous scholarships, and they have better. What can I say? Research facilities, study facilities, etc., etc. So I came to know about all of this around 2018, 2019, and that was when I really started to think that okay, I also want to do this, right? So around 2019, I talked with some of my older friends who were also trying to get into the US. So they informed me that I had to do stuff sit for the ACTs. I had to do like an English proficiency test and so on and so on, the necessary things. So these are the two main exams, right, for me at the time. So I thought, well, let's try to see how
Okay,
well we can do a
so
ACT. Yeah. Any question?
actually, um, for you, how
Yeah.
hard the LCD, how hard was the
Oh, okay. So
US
for
application
me,
process for an NCDB student?
so the SATs and the US application process, I'd like to treat these two as two different things because I don't think there's really much correlation between them. The SAT is like just an exam, right? Bangladeshi people, if they know one thing, they know exam. We know how to give exams, right? So like I just studied for what it was, and SATs are actually a bit different from how the regular NCTB exams are, because like the questions aren't actually like the Ganmul of questions. They are more like you have to understand what the passage says, and you have to do identify where something is, and you have to do stuff accordingly, and so on and so on. So I think it took me a lot of time to get used to the format of SATs. I practiced for like what, a year before I actually took the SATs. And the US application process is I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, it's a mess. It's a big mess. It's so hard to keep track of. Like for the first time, I actually applied twice. The first time I applied in 2021, for fall of 2021, and I mean that was the first time, and it was so chaotic. Like I have to write all of these essays. I have to get recommendations from my teachers. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to write a graded essay. I have to have it graded by my teachers. It was a pain, and I had to go through this all over again for 2022. But I guess it all worked out in the end. Yeah. So it's a really
Yeah.
painful process, just according to
Okay,
me.
there's a proverb that where there is a will, there is a way. I think that you are the like correct example of that proverb. However, you mentioned that you applied to the US universities last year also.
Yeah,
Okay, so how hard it was, like
I don't get what are you trying to know. I pretty much
according how hard was it to overcome?
okay.
Like,
So it's like
am I audible?
um yeah, I can hear you. Okay, so what I'd say is that when you come from an NCTP background, right, we don't really have that much experience in creative writings. We don't usually do creative writings. We like the most creative writing I ever wrote was probably during like school exams, and that was so something as well. So anyway, so for
Yeah,
for
actually,
US applications we have to write essays, right? For US applications you have to write essays on Common App and in every other portals as well, coalitions apps and so on and so on. So they ask you to write about yourself. They ask you to write about what you can contribute. They ask you to write about something you enjoy. They ask you to write about how you think you are going to contribute to their community, right? So these are all questions that you have to ask yourself. You have to know about yourself before you can actually answer these in their essay prompts. And there also comes the notion of making the essays actually enjoyable for somebody to read, and not just like uh, I'm just ranting on pages and pages. You have to have a specific word limit. So it takes a lot of thinking when you're trying to organize the essays. So it usually takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort. So you have to write the essays, and you just work. You have a problem at hand, you just work for it. That's pretty much it.
okay. It's really nice to hear you about the US about your US journey. So it would be better if you could share your uh, academic results, because most of our applicants are really too much confused about their academic results. They want to know that what kind of results they
Okay.
should do in their schools and colleges to get into the elite
So,
colleges.
okay, I understood. So I would say that actually they do value academics quite a bit. Actually, they value academics, like, but it's not to the point where if you have bad grades, it means you are not worthy of being in our school, right? They're always saying that we don't really care about your grades. We care about you as a person. Right? We want to see what kind of a person you are. But at the end of the day, they do care about your grades. If you're gonna have like D's in all of your subjects, they're definitely gonna take that as a bad thing about you, because you probably didn't study for your exams, right? So they don't want that. They want somebody who is willing to work hard. They want somebody who is putting effort into his studies, whatever he is doing, basically. So when you think about that, like grades end up mattering. So for me, my grades during I don't think the school grades matter that much from grades 1 to 10. I don't think that matters at all. You have to submit ninth and 10th grade results. And SSC was just basically everyone. SSC was basically just A pluses all throughout the subjects. NDC, you have to like do all the the half yearly exams, the first year transfer exams, and then you have the test exams, and then you have the HSC. So you have like four different exams to give. For me, like the first term and the first year finals, they were pretty good. Like I got like decent results on them, mostly because like the first term exam was like pretty good. Like I was like I used to first in NDC that time on the first term exam, and the first year final not that good, not that great, but it wasn't bad. It was just like mostly 80s throughout all the subjects. Maybe I think English was the worst one, which had like 65, 69, something like that. Like this is like a very standard grade for somebody. Like not that hard to get, and I think the test results were the worst because like that time I was really focused on IFO stuff because our tests and IFOs were like 1 month apart. So like I ended my IFO exam and then we had like in half or 1 month later we had the test exam. So I was really focused on the IFO that time. So that wasn't that great, but it wasn't bad. Like it was still an A. So I think yeah, that's pretty good. And HSC, everybody got like 96, 97. Everyone was.
OMG, you were the first boy of Northern College. We're talking with the first boy of Northern College from batch of 2021.
No, that was
However,
actually one exam. But anyway,
according to your opinion, when should you start taking preparation for the US universities?
okay, so this is just, as I said again, this is just something I did. So I actually started from like the 11th class, maybe towards the end of um, like right about when I got into college, a little earlier maybe. But that was just because I was involved with the physics Olympiads since a long time ago. But when you are for the app, like that time, I just focused on the exams, like the SATs and TOEFLs. Uh, if you're talking about the US application process, I would say that you have to submit, like if you're going for early application, you have to submit the application by November, right? So I would say whenever you are looking to submit, you should take at least 6 months or like 5 months before you have to submit, and you should start right there. You should have your essays drafts ready for like a long time. You should rewrite those drafts. You should you know uh, uh, double check. You can change the drafts if you want. You can write new essays, things you like about things you like. So you have a lot of room to change. If you like start 1 month before you have to submit, you don't have that much because it usually takes 1 month to have get your recommendations and transcripts and all of that stuff because schools are usually slower about these things. So I'd say take some time, take a long time before you can you're actually going to submit the application.
Okay, so what are the exams that we can take for applying to the US universities?
Okay, so there are mainly two, actually three, but anyway, two of them do the same thing. Uh, so there's SAT and ACT, right? There are two versions of this. These are called the standardized tests. And currently, due to COVID, most of the US schools have currently opted for a policy where they don't really care about ACT scores or ACT scores. But usually, it's a good thing to have SAT scores, and it's a good thing to have a good SAT score. Okay, if you give this for like these 2 years, like 2021 and 22, like you could opt to not send your SAT scores. Okay, because yeah, because of COVID, many people were unable to take the SATs, so they had that option. So for Bangladeshi students, it wasn't that much of a problem. Pretty much everyone I know who applied got took their SATs and submitted those. So you either take the SAT or you take the SAT, ACT. Some people take both and just send whichever was the best, right? And that is one portion of the standardized test. You also have to take English proficiency test that kind of certifies that you can actually speak in English, you can write in English, read in English, that kind of stuff. Now, most at many universities this isn't actually mandatory. Some have like an optional policy about this. I think there, I don't remember the school name, but there is a school which said that if you get like a certain amount of number in the SAT reading and writing section, you can skip TOEFL or English proficiency test. So you can do that. But if you want, you can also go for the English proficiency test. It's not that hard. It does cost money. Like it's pretty expensive. Like you have to pay like $120 for TOEFL registrations, as far as I remember. But yeah, so you can go for TOEFL. You can go for IELTS, or you could also, like many universities currently accept this. You could go for the Duolingo English test or the DET. So this one is actually free. So you can do that at home for free through the Duolingo app. But that's pretty much all the English proficiency tests. Apart from this, you don't actually have to take any mandatory tests. You can take the SAT subject test, but I think they removed that this year, so there will no longer be any subject test. There will just be the main SAT. But apart from that, I don't think there are many. These are the kind of main exams that you have to give before you can apply for the US universities. Yeah.
Um, so as you gave us, sorry, you took the exams that are necessary for applying to the U.S. universities. It would be better if you share your scores so that our spectators can be inspired.
Okay, so like the scores. Okay, so I'm just gonna say, for ACTs I got 1570 out of 1600, and for TOEFL I got 117 out of 120. So like these were kind of like really good scores for me. But usually people like any score above like 1460, 1470 is actually a really good score for ACTs. For TOEFL, I'd say anything about like 100, is actually a really good score. So you shouldn't be that worried about scores. Scores just usually just kind of, I mean, categorizing to you into like a good amount of English versus a very bad amount of English, that kind of thing. Like they don't really matter. Like 117 is not that much better than 110. It's just both are in the same level. So it's not that different.
Okay, so how did you prepare yourself for the SAT and TOEFL
Okay,
test?
so SATs, I took a long time. Like I started studying for the SATs around 2019, towards the end of 2019, and I actually took the SATs on what August of 2020. So there was like a year, some around a year, and like I prepared for the SATs mostly through Khan Academy because there are actually a lot of exercises in Khan Academy about SATs. They have like reading practices, writing practices. SAT maths are actually pretty easy if you have a solid background in maths, like if you're good at NCTB math, if you have done a little bit of Olympiad maths, and Olympiad physics, chemistry, biology, all of them have a significant amount of math involved. So if you have done anything like that, SAT math shouldn't be a problem for you. Usually people struggle with the SAT English stuff. So, what I did was I would solve Khan Academy problem sets and then see what kind of stuff I couldn't do, and then just learn those and just rinse and repeat until I was really confident with my skills. For TOEFL, actually, TOEFL doesn't really take that much, dedication, at least for me, because TOEFL is basically just an English test, and you've already studied English so much for ACTs, right? So what you really have to do is just you have to be able to speak in English and you have to be able to write in English. These are the two things that you're not really doing in SATs because SATs are just MCQ questions. So you're reading and your like reading skills are getting better. For TOEFL, you have a section where you have to speak about prompts. Like you listen to some things and you have to talk about what they were talking about. So you have to have oral skills. You have to be able to speak. So that's something I had to work on a little bit. I don't think it took a lot of time. Maybe a week, maybe. And for writing, it's just a simple writing. You have to get used to the format they use. Like you have to get used to writing it logically, giving reasonings of why you're saying what you're saying, that kind of stuff. But it usually doesn't take that long. I think it didn't take that long for me because like I am pretty. I mean, at that time I was already pretty comfortable with English because you read books, you watch movies, all that stuff. You get used to English pretty quickly. Uh,
Okay, so what tips do you have for the future SAT or TOEFL test takers?
so for SATs, I would say that like just practice a lot. Practice helps a lot. If you're confident with if you don't practice enough, like many people face this problem, like they can't uh, finish the whole exam because they ran out of time, or like they couldn't read all the passages and all the questions and they couldn't answer all of them. This is a very common problem. This usually happens because you don't practice enough. You just like read a bunch of books. Like there are a lot of famous books for ACTs. Like you have the ACT Black book. You have like the College Panda stuff and all that. So I'd say just read some books, but practice a lot. Like reading books does help because it makes you familiar with how the question patterns work. But I think ultimately it's just practice, practice, and practice. And same goes for TOEFL. You just have to get used to the format, and then you just practice a lot.
Okay. Um, we all know that for US universities, extracurricular activities plays like strong role. So,
Yeah.
what are the extracurricular activities that means ECs that you mentioned in your application?
Okay, so for me, all of my extracurriculars were actually gravitating towards Olympiads, right? Because, well, pretty much most of my 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade was dedicated to the physics Olympiad because I have participated in the Bangladesh Physics Olympiad. I think I started Olympiads in what, like 8th grade, towards the end of 8th grade. So I participated in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th, and 12th. So I also went to the internationals in 2018, 20, and then 21. So like most of my ECS that I mentioned were mostly like I participated in Physics Olympiad. I took classes at Physics Olympiad. I you know uh, organized experiments at Physics Olympiad, and then we also had like there's actually a book that I and few of our other friends are actually trying to write. There's like a decent draft going on. So I also mentioned that we are trying to write a book about these and these things, how to solve problems and all that. And I also mentioned like I wrote some articles for there's this website for these Olympiad participants, basically Smashes of Science. I think it's a friend of mine actually started that, so he asked me to write some articles for that. And so I also mentioned that I wrote articles for web pages. I also did and that kind of stuff. These are basically my ECS, and all of them are kind of focused towards physics and Olympiads, this kind of things. That was
Okay, so
my ECS.
we know that at MIT you can put four ECs. So what are the ECs that you mentioned in in your MIT application for that?
Yeah, it's the same thing. That what I just said is like my participation in Olympiads and the corresponding things that I did for the Olympiads and in the Olympiads.
Okay, so um, for getting into MIT, you had to do a lot of things, and congratulations to you for
Yeah,
getting
thank you.
into MIT once again. However, according to your opinion, which factor helped you most for getting into MIT?
Okay, I think the most important factor was again my participation in Olympiads because like I think that really showed that I was like focused about one very particular thing that I liked, and I worked a lot to be the best at that. And I had supporting achievements, right? I had a bronze medal in 2018. I had a silver medal in 2021. That basically says that I stuck to something I like, and then I just got better at it. So I think they value that a lot. I don't. It's not just specific to MIT. I think most US colleges value this skill a lot, where you stick to something that you like, right? You make good progress in that, and if you have achievements in that, that's great. If you don't, you can still convey that you like this and you did these things in that, and you can still express your uh, interests and like that. So I think that actually helped in MIT a lot. And you don't really know what got you into a specific university because they don't tell you that. Like even after I got admitted, I talked to some admissions officers, and they said, well, we can't actually tell you that right now because, well, they would if I actually went there and asked, because they have my files and stuff. But they don't willingly tell you this stuff because they don't want you to know, because they want that kind of mystery to stay. Like you I mean, they don't want, because when they're actually very, yeah, reviewing the applications, they think very objectively. Like they will say bad things about you, they say good things about you. So they don't actually want to know what kind of bad things or good things they think about you. They kind of like the sort of mystery that's behind the curtains. So I don't actually know why I got into MIT, but I can only speculate that these things may have been beneficial, and I actually think these things were pretty impactful.
Okay, so that that means we need to be focused on something particular. However, in Bangladesh, there are a lot of students think that we need to do Olympiads, need to get gold medal, bronze medal, or silver medal in international Olympiads to get into MIT or top tier US universities. So, do you have any senior or any friend who got into MIT without any international medal or without Olympiads?
Okay, so that's not really a good question for me to answer because most of my friends that I know are actually from Olympiads. So that's not a good question for me to answer. But I will address this, that uh, the thing I said before, that you have to be focused on one thing. This is actually uh, too like you read about this stuff from like the SET black books and like university applications, when you get too deep into it. But you can also be like a well-rounded applicant, and sometimes they value that also. Like you can have like a interest in physics, you can have interest in math, you can also have interest in like music and culture, you can have interest in calligraphy, you can have interest in art, all of that stuff. They also value all of these a lot. So basically what I'm trying to emphasize is that you have to be dedicated to whatever it is that you do. You can't just go like, yes, I did one class on art and that was it. I didn't do anything else. But you just mentioned that I did one class in art. That doesn't really say much about you. You just did a class. That doesn't really help your case. But if you said that I did a class on art and then I went to the competition, I didn't get anything. Then next time I also did another competition, I got a small award. This says that you found something interesting and then you stuck to it. You did something, you went a little bit beyond what a regular person might have. So, it just says that you like to get some advancements, that kind of thing. And for the later part, which you said, like, do people get into MIT and top tier schools without Olympiads in specific? So, like, Olympiads are not actually mandatory. Like, everybody says that Olympiads are actually not mandatory for US colleges, because Olympiads are basically one ECA. There are like 1,000 different ECAs you can do. So Olympiads are just internationally acclaimed prizes. So they kind of help your case. But there are so many other kind of ECS that you can have. You can. Could you excuse me for a minute?
Sure, why not?
Thank you.
Um, Please, everyone, have patience. Our guest, Rashedul Islam, will uh, join us soon. He may have some problems.
Yeah, really sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, Olympiads. So
Yeah.
their Olympiads are not mandatory. But if you actually look back, MIT does value Olympiads quite a bit, because pretty much everybody that I know that has gotten into MIT has been associated with some kind of Olympiads uh, in their academic career, right? So I'd say my team values Olympiads quite a bit. But other than that, I think a lot of other universities, they don't actually do Olympiads that much because they're more focused towards the arts and stuff. So you know, everybody values different things differently. So it's really just do something that you like and be good at it. That's pretty much all I can say about it.
Okay. Um, so as we have a lot of queries about you, I think that we need to ask you a lot of questions. So,
Yeah.
how many universities did you apply besides MIT? And as you mentioned earlier that you applied the previous year to the US universities, so why didn't you join an university, or was your experience? What did you learn?
Okay. So I applied to 12, I think 13 universities in total this year. And previous year I applied to 7 or 8, I think. So last year when I applied, I got rejected from all of them. That's why I didn't join any of them. And I also applied to only the the Ivy leagues and stuff because that was kind of a trial run for me. I wasn't really interested in like I have to study in the United States this time or there's no other choice. So I didn't really go for DLACs and other stuff. So that was last year, and this year I just mostly a lot of the IPs, and there were a few LECs and a few other universities whose physics programs I actually really liked, so I applied to those. But then again, this year as well, I got rejected from all of them except for MIT. So there's a lot of rejections everywhere,
Oh,
and it's very normal. Everybody gets
uh,
rejected, but you
yeah.
just feel bad about it.
Uh, However, you are an inspiration for all of us. I have to say this. Um, Actually, at this point, I think that MIT is unique than any other universities in the United States.
Uh,
However, congratulations again for getting into MIT.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so my question to you is that how did you win and like did you win medals in International Physics Olympiad? How did you take preparations, and if we want to like take preparation for a particular Olympiads, what should we do?
Okay, so this really comes down to interest, right? Some people are into like you should not do Olympiads because they are good ECAs, because they have value. You should not do Olympiads because of that, because Olympiads then would be really, really hard. Olympiad problems are not something that you can just learn about without like getting a feel for how everything works. So if you are actually interested in the subject and if you actually like problem solving, then I would suggest that you can and should actually go for Olympiads because it's a phenomenal community. It's a phenomenal like ECA. You just enjoy it a lot. So for me, it started in like 2017 towards the end. So as I said, I got international medals in the physics Olympiad basically, and I didn't actually participate in any other Olympiads. Well, I did participate in the BDJSO, the Junior Science Olympiad, once, but that was pretty much it. Except for that, every Olympiad I have ever been to has been related to physics. So I think it started in 2017. Like 2017, I started getting into physics a lot. I read like there's this Bangla book that came out that year by Dr. Professor Jafar Iqbal. It was called I think পদার্থ বিজ্ঞানের প্রথম পাঠ or something like that. Yeah. So that was the first physics, like actual physics book that I read, and it was a good book. Don't get me wrong; it was a really good book. It got me excited about physics. I read. Then I went to my first Olympiad. Did pretty badly at that. Not that great. So then I came to know that there are specific books that most people suggest, like you have HRK, you have University Physics. So I naturally I picked a book that my friend suggested. I read that a lot. I solved a lot of problems. And next year, 2018, I like through a lot of efforts and a lot of luck involved, I somehow made my way into Asian Physics Olympiad that year. And then there was International Physics Olympiad. I somehow got a bronze. I still don't know how I got a bronze that year, but I somehow got one. and then it was just a long journey of learn new stuff, apply new stuff, solve new problems, just enjoying the journey as you go along. And I'd say that the thing that makes the whole journey bearable and enjoyable at the same time is the fact that I actually enjoy physics and I like studying physics. It's not something that I have to do, it's something I actually want to do. So that's actually really important, because if you want to do Olympiads for because it will be a good thing on your what application, then you are going to have going to have a very hard time coping with Olympiads, because it's a really it- it's just hard. Okay, let's just leave it at that. It's hard, but it's really satisfying when you can actually do that.
Yeah, and when I get any awards or any medals in Olympiads or any other competitions, I think that this uh, like makes us like encouraged to do it more and more.
Yeah,
However,
sure.
in your college application process, or in our college application process, we get college interviews. I think that these are optional, right? So, did
Yeah,
you
college
like
interview.
take any interviews for MIT or any other universities where you
So
applied?
most of the Ivy Leagues, you can't actually like ask for an interview. They say that they will interview you if they want to, right? And they also say that interviews are not actually a make or break thing. You can not be interviewed and still get into a good university, still get into that university. So for me, like last year when I applied, I only got interviewed by MIT last year, and I didn't get into it. This year, I also only got interviewed by MIT and got into it. So like the both 2 years I applied, I only got interviewed by MIT twice.
Oh,
That's
this
pretty much it.
like I think that this was an amazing journey for you, wasn't it?
Well, the interviews aren't really that like nerve wracking. They're like you just have a conversation with some person that you've never met, and they just ask some things about you, and you just say what you want to say. That's pretty much
So
it. And if you like, okay, yeah, go
like
ahead.
most of us become too much nervous like when we talk about MIT or interview, like MIT's interview or top tier universities interview or any university's interview.
Okay,
So
so
what's your like suggestion and like
look, the interviews
what?
are not actually like that. Uh, yeah. So the best case scenario of an interview is that your interviewer really likes you and they say good things about you in their review, right? The worst case scenario is that your interviewer doesn't like you and they say bad things. But here's the thing, if your interview doesn't go great, it's just normal. It's not a bad thing. You still have your essays, you still have your applications. Those things will speak for you. But the only thing to look out for in the interview is not to do something really stupid that really bothers the interviewer, right? I mean, let's say in the interview you start arguing with the interviewer about political stuff. You should never do that, because it could really make them not like you. Let's say you start arguing about other controversial stuff, maybe religion and so on and so on. You should actually steer clear of these things, because it's not a good idea to argue with your interviewer or somehow make a bad impression. Just be a good human being. Just being a good human being is good enough for going through the interview perfectly. They don't really care about how beautifully you speak. They don't care about how presentable you look. They don't care much about your environment. They just want to see if you are if you're a decent student. They don't want you to be a great person. They want you to be a good student. You should look the part, you should act the part, you should speak that part, you know that kind of thing. So
Okay,
ultimately
so
I'd say that for interview, just do your best to be a good polite person. Don't be rude, don't be e- egotistical, and don't be judgmental. Just have an open mind and just naturally talk with the interview. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So for MIT or any other university's application, we need to do research about that universities, like what kind of students they want or what, like how can we stand out from a large pool of applicants. So how did you do your university research?
Okay, so for me, like the research I did was mostly just um, I think the part you mentioned, what kind of students they take, I think that's pretty much same for all university. They just want to take somebody they think will be a good addition to their class. And that's pretty much all they're thinking about. Sometimes the class needs more scientists, so they take people who have a more background in the sciences. Like sometimes your class needs athletes, so you take people who are more interested in like the sports and stuff, you know so it really comes down to what happened recent years. I didn't actually look through it that much. I just looked through what kind of facilities they have, because I was more interested in those things. So when I was choosing universities, what I do is I go to their websites, university websites, and look up their physics curriculums, because that's pretty much what I am interested in studying at their university. So in their physics curriculums, I'd say see what kind of stuff they offer. Do they have you know the ability to change majors? Do you have good professors? Good reviews for the classes, that kind of stuff. And do they have good research facilities? Can you do research in as an undergraduate, that kind of things. So when you do all of these, you build up an idea of what that university does for that specific subject. you know, what that university is good at, what that university has to offer for you, and what you can also then think about. Okay, if this university offers me this, I can also offer them this. I can do my own research. I can help other professors. I can help other students. I can just be a good part of this community. You build up that idea when you do all of this research. So when you have all of this knowledge, it becomes just easier to express yourself in your essays at that point. Like there's usually one essay that always asks, why do you want to study at this specific university? There's always that one question. And when you have done all of this kind of research about what you're interested in for that university, that becomes really easy to answer, is you know what you want from that university, you know what you can bring to that university, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we need to contribute on a specific campus, like on a campus where we'll go, and the universities wants to like admit like the students who will contribute on their campus. Am I
Yeah,
right?
they just want people who will be a good additions to their classes. They
Okay,
want their classes to be all rounded, and they just want the best of the best. So, yeah.
so we everybody should do our research about a university
Yeah.
uh, carefully. So we have some like comments. I think that we should answer the comments.
Yeah,
So
sure.
our first comment is, I'm a grade 11 or HSC 23 student from Rangpur. I'm really interested in studying abroad for the last 2 years. But due to some personal problems and procrastination, I didn't take any preparation such as SAT, IELTS, essay writing, law. Also, my academic is not good right now, so I have to spend so much time in this. As there is so much pressure right now, should I apply for Fall 23 with less preparation or so that there will be no gap year? Or I should go for Fall 24 with a gap year and better pre dot dot dot.
Better preparation. Okay. So,
So he has some problem
so
and he's from like he'll be taking
what I would
H.
say is that like taking a gap year is not that bad of a thing. Mostly because if you can tell them what you did during the gap year, right? You know, most universities, they don't actually mind you taking a gap year. They mind when you take a gap year and do nothing in that gap year. Like you just took a gap year because you wanted to rest. I think that's also pretty okay. but you have to tell them what you did during your gap year, right? So I would say that I think it's ultimately better to have a good preparation and apply for fall 24 for you. Because if you don't, if you haven't sat for the SATs, IELTS, and you don't have any ideas for how to write essays, I mean, all of these take a long time, and if you are also going to be worried about your academics, I think it will be a really painful time for you. I mean, some people can handle that, I agree, but if you just want to take it slightly easier, I would say just take your time, do your research right now. Have your deadline in your mind, like I'm going to apply in November 2023, that kind of stuff, and then just build up to it, right? Get, do your SATs, prepare for those, start writing your essays, maybe get a good idea of how the application process works, and so on and so on, all of this. So I would suggest that.
So that comment was written by Shotyathar. However, he has a lot of queries. We have some other comments, so I'm going to show you some comments that we can answer. Uh, this question is also written by comments is also written by Shotyathar. He wrote, "How
Oh,
much important essay is? How to write great essays? From when we should start writing our essays?" I think that this is like an important topic for US
so
university.
first thing, essays are really, really important because essays are the way you are going to communicate with your admissions officer, right? There's pretty, you can show your achievements, you can show your medals, you can show your grades, but all of these are just numbers, right? In the essays, you can talk to your admissions officer as a person, right? You can tell them what they should know about you. You can tell them the good things about you. You can tell them what makes you better than everybody else, right? So essays are really, really, really important for U.S. admissions, and for how to write great essays. There's no like sure formula, right? Do this and you will be a great essay writer. There's no such thing as that. Everybody gets to their essays in a really roundabout ways, right? I'd suggest that you read a lot of sample essays. You can find sample essays anywhere on the internet. There are books about those. You can just Google like university USF sample essays, and they will just give you lots and lots of essays on websites. You should read a lot of those because when you read good essays, you build up an idea of what the good essays are considered as, like what kind of things they talk about, what aspects of the person they show, right? Then you have an idea of how to talk about yourself, following kind of their what could I say, format, maybe. Like you build up an idea of what to say about yourself, right? By reading a lot of essays. And what I could also say is that do a lot of troubleshooting about this. Like do like write your essay once and then read it and edit it, read it and edit it. A lot of editing is usually a really good thing because it takes out unnecessary things from your essay and it just makes your essay a lot better if you take the time and to review it and edit it a lot of times. And about when should you start writing your essays? I would say at least 5 months prior to when you want to submit your applications. 5 months should be a pretty standard time. If you think you are going to take longer, sure, take longer. But I would say just don't start writing your essays a month before you are going to submit your applications. I did that once and that was not fun. Okay, so like 2021, when I applied first time, I took like what 1.5 months for all of my essays. I last time when I submitted my MIT application, I wrote the last essay like 30 minutes before I submitted my applications. That was not fun. That's a really like annoying thing to do. So take a lot of time and just be prepared to uh, you know edit and re-edit that kind of thing. Yeah.
As the essays are a reflection of an applicant, we should be more careful while writing the college essays. Um, However, he has a lot of queries. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has
How
written
admission
another
officers
question.
think, how do they select an applicant, what matters? So admissions officers, I've said this before, admissions officers want people who are good for their class, right? Who they think are going to do good things, right? They think will be they will be able to make good results, will be contribute to the community in good ways. They want that, so they select an applicant based on that. So what matters is that you have to, like, they don't look for just grades. They don't just want you to be really good when it comes to academics. They also want you to be a good person. They want you to be someone who is willing to work hard. They want you to be able to cope up with their academics. Like, oh yeah, this is something that is specific to MIT that I learned after getting admitted, is that they really value your ability to do technical stuff, right? Because MIT is a really technical school. You have mandatory physics, chemistry, and biology classes in your during your undergraduate studies, right? So you have to be able to cope up with those, and they also have much harder study, curriculums. Right? They have harder classes, they have harder labs, and so on and so on. So they value this thing a lot, that you should be able to cope up with their pressure and their method of curriculum, right? So they value that a lot when uh, they choose their students. I think it really depends on from university to university ultimately.
Okay, so we have uh, another another comment. There's okay, any regret of both of you guys that you don't struggle suggest others to do. So first of all, I just want to say you sorry on behalf of everyone who are related to this live because we are just listening to Rashid Bhaya's story from Bangladesh to MIT, how he got into MIT and other stuffs. So that's why we were unable to open the comment sections. Sorry for this. Um, he asked a lot of questions and he has a lot of queries. So he also commented that I'm really weak in English, but I have a dream of studying abroad. How to improve my English skill to get ready for applying?
For English, I would suggest that you just treat it as a language and not as a subject you have to pass an exam on. Like, for me, I learned English mostly through movies. I watch a lot of movies. I have been watching a lot of movies since I was like in sixth grade or seventh grade. And watching movies really helps. It just makes you familiar with the language. You know what something means when you hear it, and you are able to speak better, just being comfortable with the language. That really helps. But apart from that, when it comes to like for studying abroad, it's just that you have to be able to communicate. So as long as you can communicate in English, I think it's good enough. You don't have to be perfect in grammar, you don't have to be perfect in the pronunciations, you don't have to have a brilliant English accent. That doesn't really matter. As long as what you say is understandable, what you mean, then I think it's good enough with however kind of English that you speak or write, that kind of stuff. And for academic stuff, they usually teach you the kind of English that you need for academic stuff once you get to the university. So academic stuff you shouldn't really worry about, but your English skills should really be on the conversational level, and you should like play SATs and TOEFLs. Your English skills will just be that better that way. You know,
Okay,
it will get better.
although Rashid Bhaya has told a lot of things, I would just tell you that don't be worried about English. Just think that it's a language like Bangla and everything will be okay. Just go through the process and just practice English. However, he has another comment and we'll be able to ask other people's comment. Um, so, what is the total cost of studying in the US per year, both
Mm.
tuition and living cost, if I achieve medium level scholarship and aid?
Okay, so for the US, most universities, I would say the tuition is around $60,000 to $70,000 per year, and the living cost comes to about $12,000 to $13,000. So this actually varies a little bit. For example, it depends on whether your university has on-campus housing or not. Because if it does, then usually the tuition contains the housing part. If not, it's in the living cost. But ultimately, you would you need about $80,000 a year, roughly. This is just on the most of the private universities. I don't really know about LACs, and I don't have that much knowledge about LACs, so I can't really say about that. But what I'm saying is basically what MIT offered, basically. So their tuition cost is $80,000 a year, and if you get a medium level scholarship, I think for many universities they would give you enough scholarship so that you can actually study there. But if they don't, like, let's say they give 50% scholarship, then you have to have the rest of the 50%, which is basically $40,000 a year, which is a lot. So you should really look for which universities are generous with their aids and scholarships.
Okay, we have other comments. So our next comment is: at first, congratulations, Bhaiya. I want to know that what helped you to get chance in MIT, and what did you write in your essays? What kind of preparation should I take from now to get chance in MIT? Now I'm in A level.
Okay, so what helped me get a chance into MIT would be I think mostly my ECS. I have my participation in physics Olympiad and like medals and stuff like that. But also, like, I mentioned a lot stuff about myself in my essays. Like, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I have done this, I have done that, and I would be able. I would like to. Really like this aspect of your university. Uh, you know, like for like specifics, like when studying physics, I watched a lot of stuff on MIT OCW, which is basically their open courseware study facility. So they have free lectures and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time there when I was learning physics by myself. I mentioned that. I said that I really enjoyed their classroom settings. I enjoyed how the professors interacted with the students. I enjoyed their problem sets, all that kind of thing. So basically what you want to do is that you want to show the university that you're really interested in them, right? You are interested in their curriculum, you're interested in everything they have to offer. That really matters. And you also have to show that you have uh, great personal qualities that they're looking for, and the what really sets you apart from other people. And what kind of preparation? I would say that you should take, let's say, the standardized tests, the English proficiency tests. You should also just gather knowledge about how the US application process works, what kind of things you have to do. You should get letter of recommendations. You should like start brainstorming for your essays, and that's pretty much it.
And so I think that he has got his answer. However, Karim Akhtiar has comment like has written to comment. These are: do I
Do I
have
have
to
to
show
show 11, 12
11 and 12 grade transcript
Okay,
and
so you usually have to show all your transcripts from high school. So everything from ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th should actually be shown. But if you can't manage in some of them, like if you 11, 12 transcripts are kind of mandatory. You always have to show 11 and 12 transcripts. If you can't, you should mention that, or have your counselor mention that you can show one or two transcripts because you lost them or those aren't available. But if you have them available, you should definitely show your 11, 12 transcripts. Okay.
yeah,
And
he has another he wrote another comment. There's: if one's 11th grade result is bad, what should he do now?
look, I don't think you can really worry about your 11th grade result. What you can just do is you can have a really good 12th grade result, and then just have your counselor say that he did badly in 11th grade because of so and so reasons. Or just the fact that you went from bad grades in 11th grade to a really good grade in 12th grade shows that you really studied. You did your work. You did better, right? And that's what really matters. Like the fact that you were willing to work and put in the time and effort into getting a better result. You know.
Okay. However, then we have like Zubair Mahmoud who wrote. a long comment. I think that it's time to show his comment. Here's I have recently applied for Toyo International University. I got a 50% major in digital
I think you're
business
talking
and
about Tokyo.
innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, innovation measure for the fall 22 batch in Japan. I have done a number of ECs and some of those ECs are international level. The reason why I couldn't apply for the USA universities is because I was in cadet college, boarding college, and I missed the fall session because I also got into the Bangladesh army. It's nice. However, I was in the army from January to February, and so I missed the opportunity. So actually, we are unable to get your questions. However, congratulations for getting into your university, and you did a lot in your life till now. Um, However, uh, Karim Akhtia has written
Was
an
MIT.
interesting question. That's
What
why
you should
MIT
do, yeah.
takes us only Olympiad medalist.
Um, I mean, when you think about like Bangladesh, like I've said this before, like they really value your technical abilities, right? You should be able to do good when it comes to the sciences or mathematical skills, right? And the Olympiads are like a landmark. Like they really tell you that if a person has a medal in, let's say, a biology Olympiad, right? You know for sure that they have studied biology a lot, right? And you can't just study biology, you also have to have a good background in mathematics, right? So that just says that you have a good foundation for the sciences. So then you have the ability to build on those foundations, right? That's what MIT kind of looks for. And that's, I guess the Olympiad medals are kind of like convenient landmark for that. But if you can somehow else show that you're actually very comfortable with your science and mathematical skills, I think they would still consider that. Because, like, let's say the fact that you just said that MIT only takes Olympiad medals. This is, I'd say, it seems true when you're from look at the sample size from Bangladesh, but it's actually not true. MIT takes a lot of other students, uh, like the class of 2026 that I am currently a part of. There are, I think I've met only like 10 to 15 Olympiad medalists. Everybody else is just, from various different backgrounds. And for Bangladesh, as I said, it's just convenient landmark. But you can also get into MIT from, if you're not from an Olympiad background. I think it's just a tiny bit harder because you have to write better essays, and you have to be able to somehow give a different kind of what can I say, proof that you're actually qualified for the harder science and mathematical classes. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so I have a personal question to you that did you take preparation for Bangladeshi admission test like medical college admission test or
I was
BUET
actually
admission
doing
test?
that. I was doing that until I got my MIT acceptance, and then I stopped doing that. So I was actually preparing to participate in the medicals and quiz because, if I got rejected from the US universities, I had to uh, uh, study somewhere. So, Bangladesh was my only choice except for the US applications. So yeah, I was preparing for my medical quiz and Dhaka universities and other universities for all of those, but I think I stopped uh, around the time I got my MIT acceptance. So that's
Okay,
pretty much.
so uh, like you are just going through all the typical like sides of Bangladesh that are Bangladeshi students do, and I think that everybody should have a backup plan in Bangladesh if they
Yeah,
apply
definitely.
to the US universities.
I mean, this is not just
Okay,
for people from Bangladesh. This is just in general a really good life advice. You should always have a backup plan. You should have a backup plan for your backup plan. It's always a good thing to have a backup.
okay, so we have another request from Karim Akhtia. And the request is
recommendation letter.
please say something about recommendation later. And I also want to ask you something with this question that, um, like, who were your recommenders? As we need to get two teachers' recommendations
Yeah,
and one counselor recommendations.
counselor. So the counselor doesn't actually have to be someone special. It can just be a teacher from your school or college. Um, just ask one of your teachers that you want them to be their counselor, and they will probably help you out with that. It's usually a good idea to ask somebody that you know, like you have a good relationship with. Maybe you're active in their class. Maybe they know you from some kind of club or something. It's also a good idea to ask them because they will be more interested in helping you out. And in general, I think this is like everybody knows at that point. But most teachers, like a lot of teachers, ask you to write your recommendation letters yourself, which is actually not what you should be doing, but it's unfortunately what we have to do. So, like recommendation letters, you just write one. You say good things about you, things that that your university should know, and you just have your teacher read it and then sign it, and then you just ask them to submit it on your behalf. That's pretty much it. And I don't think there's a lot to say about recommendation letters apart from like you should really get the recommendation letters early. Like if you, some teachers usually delay in these kind of stuff, so you should ask them like a long time ago before your deadlines, so that you have a lot of time to have them submit those things. That's pretty much it.
Uh, okay, so Zubair Mahmoud has written something that we should read. So I'm
Okay,
sorry for
so
not making myself clear. My question is that can I get a scholarship opportunity from US universities while continuing my studies in Japan at bachelor level?
like I don't have a lot of knowledge about this, but I do know that a lot of U.S. universities have transfer applicants, right? So I think you could apply as a transfer applicant during your bachelor levels. You could also just complete your bachelor's from Japan and then apply for masters in any other US university. That's also an option. But as a bachelor level student, I think your only option is as a transfer applicant, unless you want to start over your uh, uh, you know entire studying from bachelor's. But yeah, I don't know a lot about transfer applications, so I can't really help you about that. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Zubair Mahmoud. Now I have some personal questions to you that what's your future plan? What do you want to do after completing your graduation from MIT, and like where do you want to see yourself after 5 or 10 years?
So at the moment, I don't really have a lot of future plans. I'm just looking forward to going to MIT and find something that I really enjoy. And I would say just do something that I like. That's pretty much my only goal in life. Just do something that I enjoy and not have to do something that's really boring or stuff like that. You know, so just in 5 to 10 years, maybe after I graduate, I could go for a advanced degree, masters, or maybe something like that. Get an internship, some kind of job, all that stuff. Regular stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. So, in terms of academics, what do you want to be? Like, do you want to be a researcher who will do research
Yeah.
in like a higher level, uh, and who will?
Okay, I understand your question, but here's the thing: like when you, so when you actually get into MIT, you have a lot of options. Like they have so many classes to take. You have classes that you have no idea about. Like they have a department on nuclear science and engineering. They have a department on aerospace and astronautics. They have a department on mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all that stuff. They have departments on environmental engineering. So you have so many options, right? So that's kind of the situation I'm in. I have too many options. I don't know which one to choose. Like I didn't. I'm not sure that I want to pursue physics. Like physics has been a lot of fun, But I think as I'm getting deeper and deeper into physics, it's getting a lot harder and harder. And I'm okay with that really, but I just want to see if I find anything else interesting as well. See if I can pursue that. But ultimately, yeah, research is not a bad option. Like research, I think for me, I wouldn't mind. I actually look forward to research. Like undergraduate, there are a lot of research opportunities. I'm definitely going to take those. And for future, you can't really say much about the future, but maybe research, maybe some kind of job. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's nice, really, and I think that MIT will create a lot of opportunities for you to explore and to select from them, and we're really look forward to uh, look forward to know about you in future and to work with you. I think that the Bangladeshi students who are really interested in physics, they will get an opportunity to work with you in your future, and we'll be really proud of for that. And we're really proud of you that you got into MIT. And in the previous year, our students from Notre Dame got into MIT as well. And I think that we
Yeah.
have heritage for getting into MITs for the past 2 years, and you're really an inspiration for us, those who want to get into top US universities. And as you encountered failure and you got like success in US application process, I think that there are a lot to know and learn from you. And I'll just say everyone that don't be depressed and don't be worried what's going with you and what's happening around you. Just focus on your activities and just do your tasks. You'll be able to get your destinations. And I would at last we just want to hear something from you, your opinion, your tips, suggestions for the future US universities applicants. And as you were the first boy of Notre Dame, that means you're really intelligent boy and punctual, humble, and so on. So we just want to get your recommendations and suggestions. What should we do to shine in our academics, and what should we do for focusing on something?
So for academics, I would say that every single person has a different way of approaching academics. So I'd say whatever works best for you, you should stick to that, and you should just perfect that. And just the U.S. application process is really different from everything we have experienced so far in our lives, right? Like I'm talking about the applicants, right? So you have in the last 18 years, you haven't done any sort of stuff like this, so it usually gets really hard, and you have to be, I don't know, devoted to it a lot, and it's very painful. Sometimes you don't get that much support from your parents, and they don't really understand what you're doing, so they can't really help you. So you sort of feel alone sometimes, but you should always know that you should, whenever you feel alone, you should just take some time and just talk to your friends, your families, talk about what's bothering you, and yeah, and for recommendations, I would say just try to be yourself. I don't think this is. I think everybody stresses this enough, but you are usually. I mean, pretty much everybody is a really nice person, right? And you have great things that you can show about yourself. All you have to do is that polish some of those skills and then showcase them to your applicate through your applications, right? And so you just research a little bit about how you can polish those skills. You just find out how you can showcase your skills, and you just tell your tell your application officers about yourself.
Okay,
I think
so
that's
I think that we are about to end this live, but we have Another comment from Karim Akhtia, and he requested that Bhaiya,
Uh,
please give a post overall of your profile in Bangladesh Beyond Border group. I think that this will
so,
help the future applicants.
so I would, but I probably would not, because first of all, I'm not an active member of Bangladesh Beyond Border Group. I'm just there because they sometimes have good articles. But apart from that, I'm just too lazy to write all that stuff down. That's the honest truth. And I understand that reading profiles might make you feel better, inspirational and stuff. But I don't think you should read profiles as a sort of preparation for US applications. Profiles should someone else's profile is never gonna help you like build your own. Like he's a different person. You're a completely different person. So what you can do is just build your own profile. Don't read other people's profile. That can sometimes make you depressed because you think, okay, yeah, I haven't done anything like that, and I have been through in that place. So I would really suggest that don't just read other people's profile. That can get really depressing really fast. So that's kind of one of the reasons I won't be posting my overall profile. And just the another and mainly the most important reason is that I'm just too lazy to do that. So sorry
Okay,
about that. I really have that.
however, I think that like through this live, everyone has known about yourself, your profile, and so on. I think that there's enough, but bias recommendation to us was to be ourselves, and we should be ourselves. And a person is unique, and we should be happy what I am or what you
Yeah,
are. So,
definitely.
and I'm really grateful to you, Rashedul Islam Bhaiya. You are my immediate senior from Notre Dame, and like inspirational face to all of us. And when I first knocked you, you replied me. Like I can recall that moment when you replied me, and when I requested you to be a guest of this podcast, you agreed for for helping the future applicants, and we really had a lot of queries about yourself. I think that after watching this live, everybody will be able to know about yourself, your profile, and so on. And thank you very much. I would like
Yeah,
to
definitely.
gratitude. I would
And
like to
it's
thank
been
you
a
from the core of
pleasure
my heart.
talking to everybody, and
And
yeah,
actually, I'd like to request everyone to follow Rashid Islam bias, recommendations and suggestions, and everything that he told us to get into top elite colleges, top elite colleges in the United States. And this will help us in our day-to-day lives also to be an outstanding person, to be an outstanding student among a large pool of students. And I'd like to request Rashid Islam Bhaiya to say something as we're about to end this live, because we have crossed 1 hour and 17 minutes.
okay. So for this, I just say for if I'm say one thing, I would say that just like have fun. You know, not a lot of like this doesn't get said enough, but having fun is really important. It just it keeps you in a good mental place. It just gives you it just helps you do whatever you want to do. Like if you're in a good mood, you can do a lot of things a lot better. So just don't push yourself too hard. Just know what you like, know what you don't like, have fun with it, and I think everyone will just be able to shine in your own way, as I would say.
Okay. However, thank you very much once again, as you have given us time from your valuable time, and we're really
Yeah, it's
grateful to
been a
you.
real pleasure talking to you guys. So yeah,
And I think that we'll meet you one day in person, and we are hoping that. Thank you, Rashid Islam
yeah,
Bhaiya.
sure. Okay, bye
Uh,
everyone.
take care of yourself. Bye everyone. We are going to end this podcast, and if you want to know from the students who got into top tier US universities, as well as uh, like liberal arts colleges and mid-tier universities and so on, be with us, and we'll like you will be able to learn a lot of things every Wednesday, and we'll be able to every Wednesday and be with us. This was the end of podcast 2, and thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you everyone for being with us from the beginning to end this live. Thank you.